broken news earlier in the morning. Our top focus for the day continues to be the crash, the helicopter crash of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. Now, Iranian officials have confirmed that Iran's President Raisi and Foreign Minister Amir Abdullahian have died in the helicopter crash, as we had reported earlier this morning. The IRGC division has revealed that some of the bodies are burnt and cannot be identified. Vice President Mansouri on social media on platform X confirmed President Raisi's death. Now, the Iranian president was traveling in a mountainous area of East Azerbaijan province with Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian following a visit to neighboring Azerbaijan to inaugurate a joint dam operation when the crash happened. Now, bad weather is what is being blamed for the crash, which was also described initially by media as a hard landing and said that the conditions were complicating rescue efforts. The incident, which involved one helicopter in a convoy of 3, was described by Iranian state television as an accident. This is what we know so far about the entire incident.
مخاطبین محترم میتونن ببینن که چگونه گروه‌های امداد در حالی که شب
فمنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا صدق الله العلي العظيم آیت الله سید ابراهیم رئیسی خادم الرضا علیه السلام که 3 سال پیش در سال روز ولادت امام رضا علیه السلام 8مین رئیس جمهور ایران اسلامی شد، در شب ولادت امام رضا علیه السلام به شهادت رسید.
Well, with that now, we're being joined by our colleague from News 9, Aditya Raj Kaul. Aditya, we had this conversation earlier in the day as well with regards to whether or not there is a certain level of conspiracy theory that is involved in this entire death, especially because the circumstances, definitely the weather conditions have been bad, but it's the helicopter being burnt, the remnants of the helicopter, the way it was found, and the body is completely being charred. And especially we know this comes in at a time when Iran isn't one of the most stable states. So at this point, is there any point even talking about a conspiracy theory with regards to Raisi's death?
Well, I'm pretty surprised that in the last 24 hours there hasn't been a conspiracy theory that has come out, particularly against Israel. Because any development, particularly a killing that happens in Iran, no matter what circumstances it has occurred in, it is blamed on Israel. And perhaps I'm pretty sure that in the next few days or hours, there will be somebody in Iran pointing fingers at Israel. But having said that, it's pretty much clear in this episode, in the last 15 to 20 hours, ever since this entire rescue mission was started, that this is due to either a technical error of the aircraft or the pilot, or this is the weather that has played a role in this, because this was a foggy afternoon, morning, and thereafter heavy rains in that region. And let's remember, this is a forested mountainous area. SOP says that in such harsh weather, it is difficult to fly a helicopter, so one should avoid it, especially when you are carrying number 1 and number 2 of your government. You certainly won't take that risk. Also, the Foreign Minister Amir of Iran had to be in Kazakhstan today for the SCO summit. That obviously won't happen now. Either there will be a representative or in his absence that will take place. But having said this, I'll also reflect on something which is important to say, which is that Ibrahim Raisi is someone, and having said that this is a sad incident, unfortunate incident, but we must remember who the man was. Ibrahim Raisi is a hardliner, is someone who is responsible for the killings of not hundreds but thousands of Iranians who sought liberty.
He's known as the hanging judge for that matter, yes.
Hanging judge.
Absolutely.
In 89 and 90, when he was the Deputy Prosecutor General, he ordered the killing of several of the leftists and communists and those who were protesting for their rights, for liberty. Ever since he came to power in 2021, he followed the footsteps of Khomeini, and he ordered that men and women should have limited interaction in any work environment. He ordered that every woman will have to wear a burqa and an abaya, and there is no prevention of that. Ibrahim Raisi is seen as one of the harshest hardliners in the history of Iran, and that is why we see in pockets of Iran and in pockets of the Irani population living in exile, there are celebrations happening. At the same time, I also see this as a victory for the Israelis, because in the last 6 to 7 months, there is a war and a larger conflict that's underway in the region. But without doing anything, without waging a direct confrontation, without launching a nuclear arsenal or a missile, the number 1 and number 2 of the government have been eliminated.
Absolutely.
So this is a big, big victory. They won't say it. It won't be publicly acknowledged. This is not the nicety or the morally right to say, but this is what it is. And the killing certainly will domestically put the situation of the Iranian government in a complete chaos until the 50-day period when right now the acting vice president, who is taking care of the administrative affairs, will come to effect. He'll become the president, and we'll have the deputy foreign minister, Ali, who will come and have the, in the larger footstep of an acting foreign minister. But will they be able to give the leadership, the command, the smooth transition that is required for this government is something very interesting to see. And what role will they play in this larger conflict? Because remember, there are proxies of Iran in this entire region, not just targeting Israel, but in this entire sea route, several of the ships, the Indian ships also were made a target. Several foreign ships were made a target. The UK ship was made a target. So Iran was completely focused in the last 7 to 8 months towards Israel and towards supplying arsenal, resources, money, and morally supporting the proxies. Will they now look inwards towards their domestic policy, towards having some kind of a transition which is smooth, or will they continue to focus towards Israel and launch this kind of a proxy war that has continued over the last 7 months, is something that foreign policy wonks will closely monitor.
Absolutely, that's quite a question mark that we definitely will be speculating on further. But currently, let's just get into the depth of the matter a little more. Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi was inaugurating a joint dam project with Azerbaijan on the shared border hours before his helicopter made a rough landing in heavy fog on the return journey on Sunday. Now, the helicopter carrying Raisi and his foreign minister crashed as it was crossing the mountain terrain in heavy fog on the way back from the visit to the border with Azerbaijan. Now, Raisi had been at the Azerbaijani border to inaugurate the Kis-Kalaisi Dam, a joint project. Here's Raisi speaking to the media before the crash. Let's listen into some of his last words to the people.
میتونه یک راه بسیار خوب امنی رو برای ترانزیت کالا، برای عبور مسافر و برای در واقع عبور گردشگران در اینجا کاملا فراهم بکنه و با این جدیتی که داره کار میشه من فکر کنم از زمانی که ما پیش بینی کردیم که تقریبا نزدیک 3 سال باشه حتما این زمان کاهش پیدا میکنه و در یک زمان بسیار محدودتری انشالله این کار به انجام میرسه تا مردم بتونن از در واقع مواهبش استفاده کنن.
The demise of the president of Iran, well, firstly now what we have, the information that we have in hand is fresh footage has surfaced showing the bodies being transported by the Iranian Red Crescent Society and Army Rangers. On your screens we can see, as we mentioned earlier as well, the bodies were in a state that they were so completely burned that it's been difficult to even identify them. And currently, these are the latest footages that have surfaced, that we've accessed and we bring to you. This is from the crash site, and with that, we'll also take some reactions that's coming into the story first. We will slowly dip into that reaction, but right now we also have with us in the studio Aditya Rajkol. Aditya, as we were discussing a little while ago with regards to the domestic situation in Iran. Let's also quickly look at Iran and its position, the status with terms of nuclear power and where they were headed under the rule of Raisi with regards to nuclear power. And it was quite a crucial stage, in fact, we would say. How are we assessing that particular scenario? How do we think whoever does indeed take leadership now steps into his shoes? How are we looking at the entire situation? How may that roll out?
Firstly, it will be big shoes to fill. You know, you have to firstly have an internal security mechanism to control that. You'll have to have somebody who's popular, who's intelligent, and who has that kind of a balance to take his people along, take the supreme leader also perhaps along because he's the supreme authority, and therefore take the foreign policy of the security and the security policy of Iran forward. What we have seen under Ibrahim Raisi is that, of course, he was a hardliner, but on the JCPO, on the nuclear, there have been commitments that were made when Trump was there, and those commitments Iran has always said that we will continue to maintain. But there are sanctions that have made life of Iranians difficult, especially even the top Iranian commanders and rulers. In this chopper crash, one of the things that will be investigated also is that in what condition was the chopper, because a lot of spare parts were not available to them because of the sanctions. So how were they managing that is a question that will be asked, because it's very strange that two of the same choppers are in the best of condition and they landed safely.
Right.
But this particular chopper completely failed. Either, as I said, was a pilot or a technical error, or the weather playing some kind of a game here. Otherwise, there are no conspiracy theories that are doing rounds. But for the foreign policy and the security scenario of Iran, it's a very crucial juncture where the acting foreign minister and the acting vice president, who is now the president, will have to take command and see how things unfold. Of course, I would presume that their entire focus will shift inwards. Instead of focusing towards Israel, they will be looking at governing their own people domestically, because remember, ever since Ibrahim Raisi also came in 2021, there were massive protests that engulfed the entire country, and this was almost at the same level of the 1979 revolution, perhaps the worst ever since, and it was difficult for them to control. Hundreds of people have been killed ever since, a lot of people have been assassinated, and a lot of hangings have taken place. Will the same rules continue? I would say yes. Will the same kind of a foreign policy and the domestic policy continue? I would say yes, because Ibrahim Raisi was only going on the path directed by Khamenei, and whoever replaces him will be again someone who has the blessings of Khamenei to control Iran. But overall, when it comes to the region, it is very difficult to say that, because there are three primary proxies of Iran in the region. How will Iran continue to support them with missiles, with ammunition, arsenal, and money is something to be looked at, because this also comes at a time when 7th October massacre took place, and ever since there's been a war. It might be a Israel-Hamas war, but there is a greatest involvement of Iran, and they have been not hiding it. The Supreme Commander, the Supreme Authority, and all the leaders have come in front, met Hamas leaders, and in fact, ever since this helicopter crash took place, the Al-Quds Brigade, the Hamas, and Hezbollah have openly given out statements praising Ibrahim Raisi,
they are
praying
a
for
united
him.
front at this point.
Absolutely. So all these proxies and Iran have been together over the last 7 to 8 months. But it'll be interesting to see the way forward. And the way forward certainly won't be easy for Iran.
Right. Aditya, do stay with us right now. We also have another guest joining us, but we will quickly go to him before that. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Foreign Minister has expressed grief over the death of the Iranian president. Prime Minister Modi said that India stands with Iran in its time of sorrow. And this is in a post on social media platform X, wherein Prime Minister Modi said, and I quote, "Deeply saddened and shocked by the tragic demise of Dr. Sayyid Ibrahim Raisi, President of the Islamic Republic of Iran. His contribution to strengthening India-Iran bilateral relationship will always be remembered. My heartfelt condolences to his family and the people of Iran. India stands with Iran in this time of sorrow." We also have a quote coming in from External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, who also condoled the death of President Raisi. He said, and I quote, deeply shocked to hear of the passing away of Iran's President Dr. Ibrahim Raisi and Foreign Minister H. Amir Abdullahian in the helicopter crash. Recall my many meetings with them, most recently in January 2024. Our condolences to their families. We stand with the people of Iran at the time of this tragedy. So these are the particular quotes that we have received. And right now we are also being joined by Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, former Indian diplomat who's joining us. Mr. Trigunayat, a very good afternoon to you. Very firstly, as we've discussed enough about Israel's entire conspiracy, if at all, if there is any, and Iran's current scenario with regards to the geopolitical situation out at large. If we also look at it from India's perspective, if we also take a look at what repercussions the future leadership, whoever might step into the shoes of the president, whoever might step into the shoes of Raisi, how may it look for India as we go ahead? What are the possible consequences, given that there are speculations that Khamenei's son might take over as president?
Well, thank you very much. It is very sad time to comment about the death that has occurred due to this helicopter crash of President Raisi and the foreign minister and 7 others. It is quite tragic, actually, and we also must commiserate with the Iranian people and their loss, as our prime minister and the foreign minister have done. As far as conspiracy theories are concerned, you cannot discount anything, but I think that in this particular instance, so far, we have not heard the Iranian side saying that they expected any foul play by the Israelis. Of course, the investigations themselves will reveal eventually what happened. And I believe that it could also be a technical fault, it could be a pilot's error, or it could even be a sabotage. So it all depends on final investigations that we will know. As far as the geopolitical scenario is concerned, there is definitely no doubt that Iran and the West are at loggerheads for years. Iran has been under one of the widest sanctions and only recently surpassed by Russia. And it continues to face that. Despite that, Iran has been able to navigate, I would say rather adroitly, and maintain despite a very difficult region that they are in and the kind of situation that they are in. So Ibrahim Raisi, personally, I feel was invested in some kind of a modus vivendi within the region. And that is born out of the fact that he was also instrumental in normalizing ties with Saudi Arabia.